It is the Doomsday Podcast. Ed Werder, Matt Mosley. It's a late one. We're taping tonight about an hour and a half after we probably should be taping due to a weather delay in the third quarter. And Ed, I think we needed time to gather ourselves after the spit gate that looked to be a one-sided spit situation. And then as the game unfolded, we heard other sides and that maybe Jaylen Carter felt like he was provoked. But Ed, I like your off-air. I want you to say it here. You thought something was kind of genius about Dak, right?
Yeah, loogies at the link. Should we call it that? Loogies at the link.
Is that yours? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was strategic genius by Dak Prescott to provoke Jaylen Carter, who's not known for being great at being a disciplined football player, and provoking him to the point that he would not be allowed to play the entire game. Dak Prescott managed to get him ejected. Their best player, the defensive tackle, the most feared defensive tackle in football, the guy who draws the most double teams, who was supposed to spend, all night beating up on Cowboys rookie Tyler Booker in his first NFL game, instead expelled from the proceedings. And Prescott was ultimately unable to take full advantage of that. But early on, it certainly seemed like they were able to exploit his absence with Javonte Williams in the running game. I mean, after the 15-yard penalty and the ejection, the Cowboys went right down the field and scored a touchdown on that drive, a touchdown on the next drive. There was no game last year where they had two rushing touchdowns in a single game, and here they have two on their first two possessions with Javonte Williams.
Yeah, and it led to, first of all, they had too much time to fill, and then it took a while, but because of the weather delay, which, I mean, Ed, we've both seen this. It seems to be more of a college, high school thing where you have to delay a game. Each time there's a lightning strike, it's like a 30 extra minutes. This was
going to the airport.
Yeah, it was weird.
Clear the ramp.
This one was like, okay, we got lightning in the area. We'll see you guys like an hour from now. I mean, it ended up being about an hour and 5-minute delay. I mean, Ed, we've covered a lot of NFL games over the years. It's fairly, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but
it happened last year to Dallas at Pittsburgh. Same thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
And, the challenge here for Brian Schottenheimer was to manage the situation effectively in his first game as an NFL head coach. And in Pittsburgh, obviously, Mike McCarthy did it well enough that they wound up winning the game with a late touchdown. And this time they all but won the game. They just couldn't produce the late touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, you all but win the game, I guess, if you have we need to listen, because I got more takes. I got more spit takes. I've got more thoughts on that. And that was, by the way, no matter what he thought Dak meant, Dak did for, in case you missed it, if you stepped away during the long break, they did appear to show Dak spitting. He spit really toward the ground. And I do think Jaylen Carter somehow took exception to that.
Of the Eagles' defensive huddle. And Jaylen Carter was closest to the line of scrimmage, closest to the Cowboys huddling as they tended to an injured player during a timeout following the opening kickoff. But
that's a stupid thing to do with an official right there when you're up in Dak's face to then go ahead. And by the way, it was a good spit. You know what I mean? Like it's a dumb move, but you gotta however he came up with that. I don't know if you call that gleeking or what. That was and I'll tell you who else. Dak's a good spitter. Even later in the game, Dak had to spit, and it's like a large stream that comes out. Like when you and I spit on the tennis court, I guarantee you it's just like a little nothing. And Dak's it's a major spit, and maybe it's because they're playing a football game. Go ahead.
The problem for Jaylen Carter was the spit didn't hit the fan. The spit hit the starting quarterback, and the referee was right there, and all of the cameras were trained on the quarterback in the moment. And so It was easily captured. And, there's no question he's going to be fined beyond hurting his team in this game. And he apologized afterward and said he was in the wrong in doing so, that he hurt his team, he hurt the fans, and that's what he plays for. It'll be interesting to see if there's any discipline beyond a fine. Generally, for incidents such as this, there isn't a suspension. And don't forget, the Eagles have their Super Bowl rematch next week against the Chiefs. And so that might factor into the NFL's ultimate discipline in this situation.
Well, I mean, I either Chris Sims, I saw our old friend Todd Haley, and others were out there calling for a suspension. And I just think there's there's one thing I'll say, like on behalf of Dak Prescott in this Spitgate, like that's pretty amazing. Because it really, when somebody spits on you, unfortunately, I can't really recall it happening to me.
We can arrange for it.
I think it's like, it feels like such a sign of disrespect that I think generally when it happens, there's a visceral reaction. And I think people out there were a little surprised. Dak basically watched it happen and then just kind of with a smirk looked over at the official like, hey, man, did you see that? Can you believe
you just see that? Yeah, Dak was very composed. And I guess according to Jason Garrett, who spoke to Dak after the game, Dak explained that he was walking toward Carter and had to spit, and so he spit at the ground. And Carter said, hey, are you spitting at me? And Dak said, why would I spit at you? And then he smirked, as we all saw, and continued to walk toward Jaylen Carter until they were in very close proximity to one another. And that's when Carter spit for the final time last night.
As a longtime reporter yourself, and you've been in situations where you got to try to run in there and get more information, do you think NBC was in Jason's ear or texting him and saying, can you go ask Dak and get us more information? Because they went to him right after the game and he gave a pretty nice little report. I mean, I got to say, Garrett kind of went into like Ed Werder, maybe it's just redheads are good reporters, but he kind of went into a little reporter mode. Do you think they asked him to go do that?
I have no idea. I would assume post game, if you're going to have to comment on that and the person involved and have access to that person and they're likely to confide in you, then you would just generally do it, whether you're a trained reporter or not.
Okay, I'd give him more credit than you're giving him. I think he went in there.
He did a good job, but
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whether you're trained or not. You're
trying to give credit to the producers of the telecast for directing Jason Garrett in that regard. I thought I was surprised that Melissa Stark didn't ask Nick Sirianni about it at halftime, about losing Jaylen Carter.
Well, they interviewed Shoddy.
One going in and one coming out.
Yeah, did she not? I don't know. I thought okay, maybe not. Well, Ed is now questioning Melissa Stark.
Thanks for pointing that out. That should be good for me.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Z-Man, please, sir, play the music. All right, it's late night at the Doomsday Saloon, and Werder and I, with the Z-Man, doing our thing, looking back, and Ed, doesn't it feel like we've been here before? They did it one year against, I think, Tom Brady and maybe Tampa. They have had some of these these opening games where they perform relatively well, and you're like, well, pretty good performance. Unfortunately for both teams, really, but for the Cowboys especially, the Cowboys offense, they're scoring on every drive. They finally were held to a field goal, but if you think about it, after the weather delay, the Cowboys defense played way better and forced some punts, forced a field goal, and held the Eagles to a field goal in the second half. Like it was actually a pretty nice performance in the second half by the Cowboys defense. Unfortunately, a really hot offense was grounded in the second half, and partially due to their star wide receiver, having some major case of the drops at the worst possible time.
I think the Cowboys, I thought they played well. Jerry Jones, after the game outside the locker room, gave credit to Brian Schottenheimer in his first game as a head coach for, having the team well prepared. I thought he called plays without issue. There weren't delay of game penalties. They didn't have a lot of penalties to begin. It was a very disciplined football performance by the Cowboys, while the Eagles had almost 100 yards in penalties by the half. But I thought he handled the game management extremely well, and the Cowboys really lost a chance to open the season with all these questions about trading Micah Parsons, a week before the season, and having a first-time head coach. I mean, they go to Philadelphia and have a chance to win the game and beat the defending world champions, who, Jalen Hurts has never lost the first game of the season. And it was really a failure of execution by Dak Prescott's most trusted, receivers that cost him the game. Jake Ferguson had a ball put on him in the end zone that he didn't catch. It was a penalty on the play because of the hit afterward. But if he catches that, as he should have, then there is no Miles Sanders fumble. And then I think you're referring to CeeDee Lamb, who had, 3 drops in the game, 1 on third down, one on a deep ball early on the very last possession of the game that could have been a huge play to put him in position to potentially score a winning touchdown. He dropped that on a post pattern, a perfectly thrown ball. And then on fourth down, he laid out for a ball that seemingly went off his hands again. And he took ownership. He claimed responsibility after the game, as he should have. He had 3 official drops. Only one other time in his career has he had 3 drops in a single game. That was last year against the Giants. He only had 7 drops all of last season, despite playing half the year with a backup quarterback. But I think the Cowboys, hurt themselves. And Miles Sanders broke off a 49-yard run to get them in the red zone, and then he winds up fumbling the ball away. Dak has to make the saving tackle. So really, they hurt themselves. That was the only turnover of the game. And, Shotty said, you got to win the turnover battle in these games. They didn't. And you have to win the line of scrimmage. I thought they may have won the line of scrimmage without Jaylen Carter in the game with their offensive line. I thought they protected Dak pretty well. And when Javonte Williams was in there, they ran the ball pretty well. I don't think they were so great on defense. Defensive line, I think, was oftentimes overwhelmed by the Eagles' offensive line. But, I think there's a lot of curiosity about how they were going to play on defense without Micah Parsons.
Yeah. Well, and quite honestly, in the first half, the defense didn't play well and got gashed in the run, and they couldn't stop the quarterback, and he ran all over them. And so there were the down moments, and then this thought of scheming up the pass rush for a half. That did not happen at all. And those times he ran off for either touchdowns or first downs, Ed, I think you would agree, he had all day to pass, and then he kind of moved around. Finally, he's like, well, I think I'll just take off and run. So this thought that they could scheme up a pass rush, what they finally did, Eberflus, who we've had on this podcast, and Ed, really well, I would say in the second half, after the delay especially, they allowed the field goal. After the delay, and maybe even a little bit before the delay, they started heating up Jalen Hurts, and they used a lot of corner blitzes, and they really did put some pressure on him, and then they rallied to the ball. So they played better, and so I guess you could say they did scheme up a bit of a rush. I think they did. Did they finally have a sack? I do think they had at least one sack. Yeah. But the first half
definitely played better in the second half, and I'm disinclined to blame Matt Eberflus for this, because the guy, until a week ago, thought he was going to have one of the most versatile and dominant defensive players at his disposal and be able to, come up with all these different creative ways to engage him in the game plan and thwart the offense. And now all of a sudden you don't have him at all. I do think that I think the stats would show that their run defense was significantly more effective with Kenny Clark in there at defensive tackle, the player they acquired from Green Bay in the Micah Parsons trade. So there was definitely a benefit to that. But early on, it just seemed like they created no pressure on the quarterback in the first half. You're right about the fact that these weren't just designed runs, which is how he normally scored. I mean, he's got 55 rushing touchdowns, so he scores a lot on the run, but he doesn't score the way he did against the Cowboys, which was improvised runs, when he couldn't find an open receiver. These were scramble plays. These were improvisational plays. He had no touchdowns on those kinds of plays last year. He had 2 in this game. But they did make adjustments. They sent Trayvon Diggs on a corner blitz that was effective, resulting in a throwaway. They got a 3-and-out coming out of the resumption of the game following the lightning delay. And then generally, I think they put a spy on him once or twice. So some good adjustments by Eberflus. But again, just generally, if you're unhappy with the defense, I blame Jerry Jones and the front office more than I do with the coaching staff.
Okay. You had
to know.
Yeah, no, I'd like to hear that from you. Did you see the 2 extra jerseys they brought out? I don't know if everybody picked up on that. Cowboys brought out 2 extra jerseys and had them laid over the benches. Did you ever see that tonight?
I did not notice that.
Yeah, to represent the 2 draft picks they got in the trade.
Well, early on, I angered a lot of Cowboys fans. They tweeted something about where are these 5 other players Jerry's talking about getting in the Micah Parsons trade? They could use them like right now.
They could lead to. That's what he says. So,
but I mean, even though they didn't have a rush, and Hurts exploited it with his mobility, I think that speaks to how well they covered in the secondary. I mean, Trayvon Diggs was playing in this game off 1 padded practice coming off that knee injury that ended his season, a year ago. And yet he and Kaiir Elam and Diggs and Bland, I mean, they worked well together. In fact, Devontae Smith didn't take over the game. He has 6 career touchdown catches against the Cowboys. That's twice as many as he has against any other opponent. And he and the other receiver, A.J. Brown, had come into this game with a touchdown apiece in each of their last 3 home games against Dallas, and he wasn't even a factor in the game. He didn't catch a ball or wasn't even targeted until the final Eagles possession. So the secondary, apparently the corners really held up well, and we didn't know how that was going to go in this game.
All right, yeah, the only thing I'd say is Kaiir Elam did give up a deep ball to Dotson, but he did make some plays, so that was in there. I would say, Ed, and you had a good stat on this that you posted at some point. You can probably think of it off the top of your head. Miles Sanders has a little bit of a reputation for some fumbling, and, as you pointed out, Javonte Williams had really been running hard, got a lot of tough yards. Miles Sanders did get free on that drive for a 49-yard run, and that was big. And of course, Bond was back there trying to knock the ball out. And then, of course, on the run down there in the red zone when they're trying, I mean, that was just huge. It was 24-20, and they're trying to go down there and make it 27-24, and that would have given them all sorts of momentum in the second half. And they come in there, and I believe that was one of the linemen, maybe 94 for the Eagles, and he just punched it right out. And that was a really big turning point in that game.
I think it was the rookie, right? Jahad Campbell from Alabama got credit for causing the fumble. Okay. The interesting thing about that play, the Miles Sanders 49-yard run, and you mentioned Zach Bond, the All-Pro that they signed as a free agent last year, he reached a top speed chasing after Sanders of 20.68 miles per hour to make a touchdown-saving tackle. That is the fastest speed on a play that Bond has recorded at any point in his career. And as to the Sanders fumble problem, that was his 9th career lost fumble. That's the 7th most since he began playing in the NFL in 2019, and 8 of those are on rushing attempts. That's tied for the 4th most in that span. And as we remember, the Cowboys last year led the NFL in red zone turnovers, and they had one in this game, and it was really costly.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say he got on the Audubon, couldn't you? Okay. It's late. I've got
I'd rather
jokes.
we didn't, but since you did, okay. Go ahead. The Doomsday Saloon.
The Doomsday Saloon. Welcome in, folks. Wait, where did I go? Come on. I got this camera that's like a 360. Come on, find me again. I've gone way down here, Ed. It's just this is crazy. Okay, Dak's play. Let's talk about Dak for a second. I mean, thought he played really well for the majority of the game. Had a couple of throws that got away from him late. One receiver, maybe Turpin, slipped and could have been intercepted by Quinyon over there. By the way, that Quinyon, that celebration they did on one of those plays where they went to the tush push into the end zone, that was kind of funny. So there was that, and then he had one other that could have been picked. But for the most part, made good throws, kept the team moving, had great energy. Even that one play they talked about on the broadcast, we've kind of looked for years now. We're like, well, I mean, can Dak hurt you with his feet? Does he do that anymore? And on that one play, they had him, and that was like it was Jordan Davis back there. Grabbed him and he got away, and he only made 3 yards, but he saved the Cowboys like 13 yards on that play. So I thought he showed some pretty good athleticism. He moved, he got away from, he moved away from the rush. I thought for the most part, Dak had a pretty solid ball game.
Well, I think when you're coming back from not having played in the preseason, one of 9 starting quarterbacks who didn't play a single snap in the preseason, and it had been 305 days since he had appeared in a game, since he left that Atlanta game. And considering those two things and the fact he's 32 years old, I think you're curious to see, how does he move in the pocket? And I thought he was able to move around and manage the brush, avoid some pressures, extend some plays, got outside and made some throws, even when he was rolling to his left. I don't think he was terribly effective down the field with this group of receivers. And a lot of it was he was betrayed by them, especially CD on at least 2 chances late in the fourth quarter on the final possession. But yeah, I thought he played pretty well, seemed in command, seemed confident. I'm sure he expected to go win the game there in the fourth quarter, something they really haven't done much of recently. But given all the questions surrounding him, given all the inactivity, given the injury he was coming off of, his second time in 5 years, he's had a major leg injury resulting in a surgery that cost him a significant portion of his season. Yeah, I think he generally played pretty well in the game. I think he deserved a better fate than his receivers gave him.
Let's talk about the other receiver for a second. Pickens comes in. I think he had 3 catches for 30 yards, had one big catch over there where he came back and he kind of showed how physical he can be, and he extended his arms. Yeah, and that's the bad George that showed up, and he ripped a player down. I felt like every player for the Eagles, either 33 or 32, was taking shots at the Cowboys or getting shots taken at them. I almost am a little bit defensive of Ferguson on that play you're talking about. I kind of thought the same thing, catch the football. I also kind of thought Dak led him into some major trouble there. Like he could have caught it, and he also knew that he was about to get his head knocked off. And that
How many
guy
times
did.
has Michael Irvin made that catch knowing he's going to get hit?
I
mean, that's a consequence of the profession. That's you got to make the play. You're going to get hit anyway. So catch the ball. It was easy for me to say, but that's his job. And he needs to make that play. I'm sure he would say he needs to make that play. His failure to do so was very prominent in the fact that the Cowboys failed to win a game that they had every chance to pull off an upset to start their season.
All right. Other parts of the team, Ed, linebacker, I'm just trying to think some of the new guys that we were watching. Murray was out there. Jack Sanborn, 57, was flying around a little bit out there.
Clark played quite a bit, it looked like. Didn't seem like Maris Leopold played as much as I would have expected.
Well, because he was getting gashed in the run game like crazy, perhaps. I mean, he was out there, and then he got caught. One time they had two unsportsmanlike penalties on the same play. He was one of them, and I think somebody grabbed his helmet, and he tried to grab the helmet off. Again, that's what I was saying. Blankenship or DeJean, one of them, constantly were in the middle of all that stuff. It was a chippy night, as you would expect, between the Eagles and Cowboys. I would say on the good side of Brian Schottenheimer, and we talked to Brian out there at training camp. I thought he had a special moment before the game. They showed him kneeling down on the goal line, and I think maybe even probably taking a moment to take in what it was, and maybe even thinking about his dad and those kinds of things. Once it got going, thought he settled down, for the most part, and
I think when we've done this show in the past, almost every week, every episode, there would be some game management question about Mike McCarthy. I don't think we came out of this game feeling like there was anything that any decision he made that was really questionable at all. I think some fans think that they were too aggressive throwing the ball down the field, but I mean, I think that's where the weakness in this defense was. I mean, they've had a hard time with Vic Fangio defenses, and the weakness on this defense is in the secondary. That's where the inexperience is. And they were trying to take advantage of that. And
Ed, this is kind of a boomer bust team. I think back at late game situations, and they kind of like a 4th and 3. Here comes a one-on-one situation, and they went on a go route to CD. And as you said, I get it. I mean, I also get you got 3 yards, and you still have tons of time left in the game. And so I get either way of thinking there. I'd like to extend that drive. Certainly, now that I know that
the first down at Candlestick when he threw a 70, had Troy Aikman throw a 70-yard pass to Alvin Harper. Like, that's how you win the game.
Was that 4th down?
And it was 3rd down.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a little different. Okay. And that was a Super Bowl.
No, it was an NFC
Championship game.
Yeah,
I know.
The point is, like, if it works and you're being aggressive and it works, quarterback completes the pass, everybody's like, oh my God, they just won the game. What a play.
Okay. I mean, you would agree that it's a lot, it's a high risk, high reward, but it is much riskier.
Anything was high risk, high reward tonight.
Well, that's why you could have thrown it to somebody else. I mean, wasn't there number 1 running around out there? Tolbert, I think he got 1 ball, and he had no shot at that over in the corner. And then one time they threw it to Schoonmaker, like in traffic, and I'm like, I didn't even know he was still on the roster. Schoonmaker was out there running around, chasing cars. And then, like, before the game, they started bringing random people up. Did you see that? Like Buddy somebody and Buddy the Elf and another player. I was like, where are these guys coming from? So they did. I don't think I could say that.
Talking about practice squad elevations, Ryan Flournoy and Buddy
they brought him up. I think they brought him up to the
practice squad.
Yeah, to the active roster. Yeah, it's good. I was glad to have them. I was glad to have them out there. I just thought I would note that they got involved. There were people out there. Who's 59? Who's 59? He was out there doing some things.
Murray.
Okay, I like him. Is he one of the former first-round picks or something?
They all, in addition to numbers, they all have names on their backs. If you like to kind of maybe look above the number once in a while.
I like 59, 57. I thought,
you know who's not as good as he used to be? 13. 13 is Damon Clark. He was a lot better when 13 was DeMarvion Overshown.
I think 13's Fowler.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Dante Fowler. Yeah.
So he was out there running.
Yeah.
Ed and I are going to get a run.
It's late. It's late at the Doomsday Cafe Saloon.
Yeah, the saloon. Yeah. Oh, man.
I got to get up here soon and get down to Dallas for my TV.
Oh, nobody loves Mark Istook like you do. It's like you got to be down there with him at like 6 a.m.
First thing I think of is, once again, I got the early morning live shot coming off a night game. And now we're cursed by a weather delay again, costing me another hour's sleep, just like last year when the Pittsburgh game happened.
I got in my pocket, the phone's just going off like crazy. What could that mean, Ed? It can only mean that Stretch is trying to get in. Stretch is trying to weigh in. So we'll get him in. We'll get him in and do our thing. Ed, good work. Good work,
Thanks,
sir. And it is now time to
one final stat. I know you love my stats.
Yeah,
Here's
I love
my final stat from ESPN Stats and Information, and that is that there have been 27 times in the last 5 years where division opponents have played one another in an opener, and only 2 of those teams that lost came back to win the division. So the Cowboys are already out of the division is what I'm trying to tell
you. They're done. They're finished. Pretty good effort. I call that a moral victory, baby. That is what we used to call in the Galloway show a loss-win. We used to have those. You lose, but you kind of win. So that was a good loss-win.
Well, Schottenheimer, I thought, characterized it well. He said, it's a game we could have won. We had a chance to beat the world champions on their field. That proves that we're capable of beating anyone, but until we do it, it's just words.
Ed, I'm going to that's good. I like that line. I'm going to wish you well. I'm going to wish you sleep fast, have a great morning, and I'll try to, get up and watch that on Channel 8. That's WFAA. Mark took at about 6:30 tomorrow morning, and he'll be visiting with Ed. And then Ed has all sorts of other responsibilities. Thank you, Ed. We'll do something a little uncharacteristic. We'll do Glenn Stretch Smith next. But Ed Werder, have a great evening and appreciate your great work tonight.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Football season is back, and Underdog is the best place for you to make picks and win money all season long. And playing on Underdog, it's easy. Even I can do it. You just pick whether your favorite players are going to go higher or lower on particular stats like touchdowns or even interceptions, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. And you can play with as little as $1. So this week, let me show you what I'm looking at. This week, I am picking 2 of my favorite teams and some of their best players. For Thursday night's big game, Dallas at Philadelphia, I've got George Pickens going over 49.5 receiving yards. Good debut for him. And we know it's going to happen against a great defense like the Eagles. Dak Prescott higher than half an interception thrown. For the big game Saturday, Baylor at SMU. My guy Bryson Washington is going to get into the end zone. I've got him at higher than half of a rushing or receiving touchdowns. And listen, Baylor looked awful against the quarterback run last week, so I've got Kevin Jennings of SMU rushing for more than 29.5 yards. And hey, if you want to play along with me today, you can sign up with a promo code Mosley to score $50 in a bonus fund when you play your first $5. You play $5, you'll get $50 in a bonus fund. That's promo code Mosley. Millions of fans have already made billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms. _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
All right, it is time for Stretch Plays with former Cowboys scout and coach Glenn Stretch Smith. And you can see Stretch after a lot of the games this season over on WFAA, Channel 8. And so both of my colleagues here on the Doomsday Podcast, Ed Werder and Glenn Stretch Smith, do some good work for the local ABC affiliate. That would be Channel 8 WFAA. Stretch, welcome in. I before we start breaking it down, just overall, Cowboys lose this one 24-20. I guess, it's like there's some optimism because they went out and certainly had a chance to win, but it does feel like they let one get away and really lost a pretty good opportunity to go win that game at the end, and based on really some pretty bad drops there by a great player in CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, the margin for winning and losing in the National Football League, if you didn't realize it, it's razor thin, and we see it all the time. I mean, I didn't think there was any way this team was an 8.5-point underdog, and I don't bet football, but I thought ultimately the Cowboys did what they needed to do to put themselves in position to win. You say, well, defensively they couldn't get any stops in the first half. They did a couple of funky things in the first half that I didn't really care for. They also did a couple really good things. They stunted and stemmed the line down there on the goal line in that first drive, and I thought that was okay. Now, why they played coverage from the 2-yard line, I don't know. They were playing man coverage, and that allowed Hurts to get it in. But I thought overall in the second half, they got you enough stops to win the football game. I really did believe that the Cowboys needed to score 30 points to win this game tonight. And, they didn't get it done. But I mean, the one thing I don't want to do is come on here and overreact to what I felt like was a much better overall scenario than I could have imagined. From a coaching standpoint, I thought Schottenheimer called a really good football game. He got some matchups at times on that last drive, on that 3rd and 5. He motioned out and he got Pickens on the safety, one-on-one on the out route, and it was a really good-looking play. I thought Dak absolutely took what he should have taken on that 4th down throw to CeeDee, and I just thought you saw an offensive line that's young, that kind of came into its, kind of started feeling its way. And yeah, they got beat some, but they didn't give up any sacks, played pretty stinking well in the run game. They were physical. And I saw a running back that looked like he did when he came out of North Carolina. And so, tight ends that again, blocked their ass off. So I saw really, really some good things here that I think this football team can build on. But ultimately, Matt, I have to give a lot of credit to Dak Prescott. I really do. I mean, it's a young man that I've been probably a little more critical of maybe at times than I should have been because of what my point of reference is. And that's not always fair with Troy Aikman. But, hey, I thought overall what you saw has got to be encouraging to Cowboy fans for sure.
Okay. And some of the things that you encouraged you about Dak, one thing that impressed me was the time and you brought up something even before we came on about, and I hadn't even really thought about it, how long it's been since he's been out there, the injury. So to see him moving well in the pocket, to see him on that one play get away from the pass rush and save the Cowboys a lot of yardage there and actually pick up 3 and then make some big time throws. There was a really good, and I know, I don't want to be Mr. Body Language or whatever, but just in terms of how he rallied the team and his whole attitude from the very start of the game, I would say, Stretch, to me, it was very encouraging. And then, like you said, he ripped some really good throws like like sometimes I like bringing up specific throws with you. And occasionally you'll disagree and go, no, that wasn't as good a throw as you think it was or whatever. But like on that post route or on the route that he put it just right in the breadbasket of CeeDee. And then you heard Collinsworth saying, well, what's his name, didn't clear out. Talking about Turpin, did not clear out. There was a lot of traffic in there. Again,
well, that was on the dig. That was on the dig.
I know, but CeeDee should have caught that ball. That ball went right through his hands. Yeah. But I'm just wondering about some of those throws specifically. Like, how impressed were you with where he put the ball?
Yeah, I think the thing that really impressed me the most was how fast he had discernment in the football game. They brought the slot blitz one time, and I mean, he rips it backside to the hitch to CD. I mean, he saw the blitz and bang, it was out right there. Those are the kind of things to me that differentiates Dak from what I've seen him do in the past. And then he put multiple balls on guys. And yeah, the seam throw to Ferguson was going to be a bang play. He took a shot in there. He threw one to Span Ford that was pretty dang close to being a really good football. And then, the throws to Pickens, to me, he was reading and recognizing what was going on, and he was doing it in a very efficient manner. And I like that. There's multiple times when I've seen him come off the field and him look like that, mule looking at a new gate. He didn't have that. It was none of that. I mean, so do I think that there's room for improvement? Hell yeah, because he's going to get better chemistry with Pickens. But man, this offense, if you're a Cowboy fan, you got to be encouraged by what you saw, and especially out of the quarterback, because Matt, I've been critical of paying him that kind of money. I've been critical multiple times of, it's hard to believe this guy makes more money than Joe Burrow and But hey, he made a huge step forward tonight in my mind, coming off a 300-day layoff.
Okay, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Stretch, I think people would like to hear your thought on your first real look, not that you haven't seen him play before, but now that Kenny Clark is with the Cowboys, how he looked. Odigizua is a player we always kind of keep an eye on. And then Fowler and Williams, I would say at times they made some plays. At times they were a little uneven. Certainly got gashed in the running game by the quarterback, at times by Saquon. But that D-line, and then in general, that front seven, what were your biggest takeaways?
All right, well, I'm going to start with the two inside guys are very functional guys. You can tell Eberflus wants those two guys, whether it's Odigizua or Clark or Solomon Thomas. Hopefully Mozzie can get back in the mix here. He wants those guys to eat up those three inside guys. He wants two guards in the center to be eat up by those two guys. And you saw that tonight. Are they going to be very effective pass rushers? Probably not. But what I saw was a defense that was kind of a bend but don't break defense. Other than the deep posts that they hit, they kept everything in front of them. He was having to check the ball down a bunch. And so defensive line-wise, I saw Houston get in and make a play. I saw Marshawn Nealon make a couple nice plays. I want to continue to see Dante Fowler. I want to continue to see Sam Williams. I want to continue to see those guys roll in there, because without question, Johnson and Mailata are probably the two best tackles in the National Football League. Ezeraku got ragdolled early in the football game because he thought he was going to get a holding call against Mailata. I got news for you. They're not calling holding when your hands are inside. Those are things he's got to learn, and hopefully he will learn. Do I think this defensive line is going to be some rolling ball of butcher knives that's going to give you a bunch of sacks? I do not. But I do think you saw them in the second half start to get more comfortable with where they needed to be. I thought you saw Eberflus did start to kind of gamble a little bit. But the front, which is specifically what you're asking me about, got better as the evening went on. Linebackers, rusty to me. Murray, a little bit rusty to me. I I saw a little bit of Sanborn looked a little rusty to me. I think he's a smart guy, but he'll get better. And so Clark, you know, they're going to have to play together some to get into that. What I would say is a really sweet spot for understanding where to fit and how to fit in the run, knowing you've got two big guys up front that are going to keep those guards from free releasing to the second level. So overall, I thought the defense got you enough critical stops in the football game to give you a chance to win. And you go, well, what happened in the first half? Hey, I thought it was kind of a feeling out in that first half. Now, why on that very first drive, why he decided to play 2-man coverage down there from the 2-yard line, I don't know. But on second down, he had stemmed the defensive line, and they stoned him. So I think they continue to get better. This is not Eberflus, as you can tell. He's not going to go play. He's not going to go play at the big blackjack table. He's a $5 blackjack table player. He ain't playing at the $100 table. He's not a big gambler. When he did, though, they bring the 2 corners on back-to-back plays, and Diggs takes a crappy angle, and then Bland takes a crappy angle and misses him. Those things will clean up because guess what? Now they've got the speed of the game. Now they got it on film. So overall, defensively, I thought you got what you needed to get out of the defense to be able to beat last year's Super Bowl champion. You just couldn't make the plays on the offensive side. Miles Sanders, you got to outrun the linebacker. You're in the open field, bud. You got to take that to the house. And then you can't fumble it in that situation. But CD, he's not going to make those drops, but you can't have those drops. And to me, that's really where the football game was lost.
All right. Last thing, how crazy is it, Stretch? You've been coaching a long time. You played college football. You've been around the Cowboys. How crazy is it before there's even a single offensive snap to see the best defensive player on the Eagles check out of the game on a spitting incident like that? And I know now we know there's some back and forth between the two, but still pretty amazing series of events. And that really should have helped the Cowboys and probably did help the Cowboys to a certain extent in some of the ways they were running the football. But how crazy was that? Have you ever seen anything quite like that?
No, completely inexcusable. I can get the verbal banter. I can get all that, but I mean, I just can't think of a worse thing to do. I guess he did buck his head down and spit in his chest instead of spitting in his face. But at the end of the day, there's no place in football for that. I hope he gets several games suspension because there needs to be a very loud thud hit for that scenario. The other thing that we're not talking about now is Landon Dickerson went out, and the Cowboys had a hell of a break there in the fourth quarter, or that after the weather delay in the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, where they didn't have Dickerson. He is a big time quarterback of that offensive line. So Dallas had some breaks and they didn't take advantage of it. That's the frustrating thing. But to me, this is a long book, and we're one chapter into it. It's a 17-chapter book. We're one chapter into it, and you got to challenge your football team. I think, and I think Schottenheimer will do that. You got to challenge your football team to go, you know what, go make this right against the Giants. And I think what you see and what you're going to see on film is multiple opportunities to have won this football game and to beat arguably the best team in the NFC.
Stretch, I appreciate it. Always enjoy doing this and look forward to it. And we'll be doing this for the next 16 weeks as the Cowboys lose that first game, but we saw a lot of positives. Appreciate you, sir.
Mosley, sorry to bother you tonight, pal.
Stretch, stay with me for a second, by the way, because you are our anchor and we can't have you turning things off. We've got to download this unbelievable interview we did. There he is, Glenn Stretch Smith, WFAA, longtime Cowboys coach and scout, and he knows his stuff. Always great to have him here on the Doomsday Podcast. For the Z-Man, for Ed Werder, for the great Glenn Stretch Smith, I am Matt Mosley. Good night from Lake Highlands, Texas.
We are Rogue Media Sports.